च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been studying Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. I am taking some of the topics from the Gospel in order to dwell upon the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. Today's topic I have chosen self-realization through self-sacrifice. Self-realization through self-sacrifice. We have been dropped into this world so that we may struggle towards realization of the self. Unless we realize our true self, we cannot be free from sufferings. We cannot have real peace. To experience, to establish oneself in true state of peace, one should sincerely struggle for self-realization. Here we have Sri Ramakrishna, who struggled and attained self-realization in his very life. So, Sri Ramakrishna's teachings have tremendous practicality. So he suggests methods so that we can follow them and achieve the result. Sri Ramakrishna himself has said, one has to give up all attachment towards things of the world. That means mind should be freed from all the shackles. If the mind is sticking to a particular thing, then you can't really have mastery over the mind. So self-control is very essential. Mind control leads to mind purification. Mind purification leads to self-realization. So, Sri Ramakrishna has very clearly stated that one should not divert his mind towards the material things, particularly mind should not be dragged towards acquiring property and indulging in excess of pleasures of the world. See, these things, what happen, they will sap the energy of the mind. Your mind loses its vigor. So, afterwards it will be very difficult to lift the mind. In the case of the world's great ones and ideal characters, no external struggle was observable. Instinct ruled in the animal world, but men were influenced by rationality. Man's highest evolution comes only through sacrifice. The greatest sacrificer was the greatest man, while the largest killer was the strongest animal. The struggle theory was not of equal validity to the animal and human kingdoms. Of course, man too had to struggle, but his struggle was in the mental sphere. The greater his self-control, the greater was the man. Animals struggled for body preservation. Man had to struggle for mind mastery. Swami Vivekananda has clearly asserted the highest evolution of man is effected through sacrifice alone, brings to our minds the Upanishadic utterance. One of the Upanishads called Kaivalya Upanishad, it tells na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyagena amritatvamanushuhu. Not by work, not by progeny, not by wealth, but by renunciation alone, some attained immortality. That means the Upanishad is driving us to the point that we should cultivate sacrificing nature. Instances of ennobling sacrifices which bless both the sacrificer and the person for whose sake the sacrifice is done are plenty in our history and sacred literature. A knowledge of these shining examples of utter selflessness will help us in our struggle against the powerful monster of the ego in us and make us realize that it is not possession, grabbing and aggrandizement that make us rich, but rather dispossession, casting off and giving away that bring us lasting wealth. The real wealth is spiritual wealth. The real happiness is realizing God. The miser who stores and heaps is really the worst loser. Fulfillment does not lie in self-preserving, but in self-abnegation. Not assertion, but self-denial is but self-denial. That is the only path to glory. As has been well said, If self-preservation is the first law of nature, self-sacrifice is the highest role of grace. We honor the cloud when it bursts itself asunder and pours down its contents and gets its cloud being liquidated in the process. We honor the sun because that huge reservoir of heat is without a moment's break throwing out and abroad its very life energy, itself dying, as the scientists assure us, in the operation. The gods have an invincible weapon in the Vajrayudha, the thunderbolt. Indra's weapon is Vajrayudha. Its invincibility is due not primarily to the material of which it is manufactured, but to the high principle which lies behind it. There was a very great sage whose name was Dadhichi. His self-sacrifice made this invincible weapon possible. Vajrayudha was made out of the spine of the Maharshi. The gods needed this special weapon for self-defense. Otherwise they could not kill the monster, the demon Tataka. So they were frantically searching for a special type of weapon by which this most wicked man could be killed. So they had to find a person who would smilingly and willingly give away his bones to be fashioned into a weapon. Life is dear to all, and who indeed would volunteer to give it away, even for doing a good turn to the gods? But here is a great Rishi, Dadhichi, who readily offered to lie down and die so that his bones might be made into a weapon invincible by the architect of the Devas. And using this sacrifice-tempered missile, Indra fought with Vritrasura, not Tataka. I was mentioning Tataka. Vritrasura and other demons, and vanquished them. And all the celestials, the gods, sang the glory of the great Maharshi Dadhichi, who was a human being. And he attained that highest state of greatness because of his self-sacrifice. In history, we read of fratricidal combats. When a king dies, leaving 4 sons, for instance, one of them, and not necessarily the eldest, crowns himself the monarch after battling with or driving out or imprisoning the others. A war of inheritance has often been the sine qua non of a succession to the throne. But a struggle quite the other way, a fight in another sense, was what was witnessed when King Dasharatha died. Here you find in this blessed family of Dasharatha how everyone was having the sacrificing nature. Nobody wanted power, position. So they wanted to live for an ideal. So there ensued a grim competition in the palace of King Dasharatha, not for usurping the scepter, but for transforming it, for transferring it, not for ascending the throne, but for avoiding it. Sri Ramchandra the eldest of the sons, who was about to take up the reins of the kingdom, had to give up everything, had to give up power, etc. And he had to go to forest in order to keep up the word promised by Dashrath to his wife Kaikeyi. Sri Ramchandra surely had power enough to dismiss the unjust suit of Kaikeyi, but he didn't do so. He just went off to the forest then and there. Then Bharat, who was the son of Kaikeyi, was made available by a fond mother. She wanted him to take the throne, but he felt terribly annoyed. He didn't want that power. He ran to the forest to beg the rightful heir retrace his steps. And there was another brother, Shatrughna. He never thought of the throne. When Bharat was requesting Sri Ramchandra to come back to Ayodhya to take the kingship, Sri Ramchandra said he cannot come that way. Instead, he offered to induce Bharat to make over the throne to Lakshman. But do you think Lakshman will agree? He discarded. He didn't want it. He wanted to be always with Rama. Wherever Rama goes, he will be there. So, among the illustrious princes of Ayodhya, there indeed was a scramble to make the other fellow rise to the power and prestige. It is not the physical magnitude of a sacrifice that makes it big, but the spirit behind it. It is not the external how much that decides the worth of a sacrifice, but the internal motive and attitude. Men get dazzled by the glamour of the apparent. God cares only for the soundness of the core. There is a very famous incident in the Mahabharata that illustrates this great truth of life. Swami Vivekananda has dealt with this in his lectures on Karma Yoga. When the Kauravas were defeated and killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Pandavas occupied the throne. Thereafter they planned and performed a very big yajna, sacrifice, in which all the poor people were awarded any number of gifts. A sacrifice on such a magnificent scale had never been witnessed before. And the whole country resounded with the praise of the event. Everybody was praising. The Pandavas must indeed have felt pleased that their munificence had won such a wide recognition. When the sacrifice was completed, a mongoose, a small animal, it came to the yard. It presented a strange sight. Half its body was golden. The other half was its natural color, brown color. It rolled longingly on the floor of the place of sacrifice. It wanted to see whether the other half could become gold, so the whole body would be looking like gold colored skin. But it was very much disappointed. It began to say, "You're all liars. There is no sacrifice at all." People were astounded. and gave the mongoose details of the enormous wealth given away and the vast number enriched. So they wanted to know why mongoose is telling this way. They called its remarks as hasty and erroneous impression. Then the mongoose told them the story, why it made that statement. Then the story goes, there was a Brahmin family in a village consisting of the father and the mother and the son and the daughter-in-law, 4 people. Very poor. They were all very poor, living on the precarious income got through preaching and teaching. Many days they would not get anything at all. To add to their troubles came a famine which raged for 3 years. One day, the head of the family managed to bring home a little barley flour. They had all been starving for days, and this slender diet now available to them was divided into 4 equal parts because there were 4 people. They sat to their meal. They were about to take food. Just then there was a knock at the door. Immediately, the father dutifully rose and opened the door, only to find a guest asking for food. Will you please give me little food? The father practiced the Vedic injunctions to the very letter, which says, Achiti Devo Bhava, treat the guests as gods. So he was literally following that. He had tremendous faith in the Vedas. So without a moment's hesitation, he gave away his portion to the guest, who ate it up hurriedly. And then complained that the small intake had but intensified his hunger. Yeah, when a person is too much hungry, if you get little bit, by tasting it, he feels more hunger. He wants more. The mother of the house then offered her share. The father tried to restrain her, but she said that her duty was to follow up her husband's action. Then the guest was not satisfied. He is still asking for more and more food. Then son too gave away his portion. For a father's noble deed had to be completed by the son. Even then the guest was not satisfied. Still he wants. Then the daughter-in-law gave away her share too to the abnormally hungry guest, who now felt fully fed and went away blessing the hosts. And merciful death came to all the starving folk that night. The mongoose, in its rounds, chanced to get into that house where the 4 dead bodies lay as the remains of the greatest annadana, giving gift of food the world has seen. A few granules of the flour given to and eaten by the guest had fallen on the floor, and the mongoose rolled its body over the place and found to its amazement that half its body became gold by virtue of the contact with the blessed granules. And a tremendous desire arose in the mongoose mind to have the other half of the body also turned gold. So, where there was a function, big program, an auspicious program, it would go immediately to see whether the other half of the body could be converted to gold. But wherever the mongoose went, it had no hopes. There had been no second sacrifice equal in merit to the flower-giving hospitality of the Brahmin family. The Pandavas no doubt gave away lots of money, they distributed, but they were less than a pice worth of flour. When the dissatisfied mongoose had adjudged and left, the proud Pandavas stood humble. All their ego was crushed. See how the power of sacrifice is glorified. That's the point. One should cultivate that sacrificing nature. Everybody has got that element of sacrificing nature. Again, Buddha's capacity for sacrifice was something very remarkable. In the words of Sister Nivedita, who had ample opportunities of witnessing Vivekananda's reverence for Buddha, which she points out was chief of the Swami's intellectual passions, perfect as Buddha was in reason, he was at least as wondrous in compassion. To save the goats at Rajgarh, Buddha would have given his life. He had once offered himself to stay the hunger, Swami Vivekananda, of a tigress. Out of 500 lives renounced for others, had been distilled the pity that had made him Buddha. Every nation has its own room and ideal of sacrifice. In this respect, as in many other things, there is a typically Oriental mode. Swami Vivekananda, speaking to a Western audience, made a proud reference to the Indian national characteristic in regard to the motive and method of the sacrifice supreme. He said, just as you are brave to jump at the mouth of a cannon with a hurrah, just as you are brave in the name of patriotism to stand up and give up your lives for your country, so are the Indians brave in the name of God. There it is that when a man declares that this is a world of ideas, that is all a dream, he casts off clothes and property to demonstrate that what he believes and thinks is true. There it is that a man sits on the bank of a river when he has known life is eternal and wants to give up his body just as nothing, just as you can give up a bit of straw. Therein lies their heroism, that they are ready to face death as a brother because they are convinced that there is no death for them. In the Indian social organization, the place of honor is always for the monk, who in fact is beyond that organization. Everybody bows to the monasticism. When an aged householder seeks a monk who is many years his junior, the householder makes obeisance to the monk. So respect in India is always for the spiritual ideal a person embodies. Social position, the power of wealth, the vastness of learning, etc. are of secondary importance. And so the monk is superior to others because of the great loftiness of his scheme of living, because of his cherishing a set of values which ordinary folk cannot and even must not harbor. Swami Vivekananda was once asked, ought one to seek an opportunity of death in defense of right, or ought one to take the lesson of the Gita and learn never to react? The Swami spoke slowly and with a long pause. I am for no reaction. Then he added, for sannyasins, self-defense for the householder. In explanation of this standpoint, as it were, he said on another occasion, it is weakness that conceives the idea of resistance. I do not think of punishing or escaping from a drop of sea spray. It is something to me. It is nothing to me. Yet to the mosquito it would be serious. Now I would make all injury like that. Strength and fearlessness. My own ideal is that saint whom they killed in the mutiny and who broke his silence when stabbed to the heart to say, and thou also art he. The sublimest manifestation of the law of sacrifice is, however, to be seen in the incarnation, the descent of the divine in the form of man, Avatar Purush. To put it in the language of the Purana and the Itihasa, the element of sacrifice lies in the fact that Narayana, the Supreme Lord, quits for a time his abode of bliss and perfection in Vaikunta, and in order to free the world of men from the tyranny of the demons and giants, subjects himself to birth and death, to banishment from home and to separation from dear ones, and to all kinds of suffering caused to him by wicked schemers and vilifiers, and labors long and hard for fulfilling the purpose of his advent. Rama's life was no bed of roses, despite his being an ideal in every respect of personality. And as for Sita, the one absolutely flawless woman in all creation, her cup of misery was always full. Krishna's life too was one of toil and trouble. But the incarnation's measure of suffering is a measure of his sacrifice. There is also a deeper current of sacrifice in the incarnation. It is to be seen in his purposeful restraining of himself to the plane of the normal human, in his struggle not to soar away into the heights which are habitually his, in his pressing himself down to easy availability to men who can but walk on earth's low levels. A short dialogue which took place on Friday, April 9th, 1886 at the Kasipur Garden House. If you read that, this idea, how nicely Sri Ramakrishna has spoken. There was some talk on Buddha at first, and then Sri Ramakrishna again became silent. Narendra and the other devotees looked at him intently. Suddenly, a smile lighted his face, and Sri Ramakrishna began to talk with Narendra. Yam was fanning him. Sri Ramakrishna said to Narendra, "Well, here you find everything, even ordinary red lentils and tamarind. Isn't that so?" Narendra said, after experiencing all these states, you are now dwelling on a lower plane." Master Mahashaya to himself said, yes, after realizing all those ideas, Sri Ramakrishna is now living as a bhakta, a devotee of God. Sri Ramakrishna said, someone seems to be holding me to a lower plane. Narendra said to Yam, great souls, even after their own liberation, retain the ego and experience the pleasure and pain of the body, that they may help others to attain liberation. It is like coolie work. We perform coolie work under compulsion, but great souls do so of their own sweet pleasure. In fact, while devotees ardently pray for divine ecstasy and spiritual absorption and a lift up from sordid samsara sensations, Sri Ramakrishna found it necessary to pray the other way. Oh Mother, stop me from enjoying ecstasies. Let me stay in my normal state so that I can be of more use to the world. When in his last days on earth, because of his enfeebled health, his attendants wished to restrict his visitors to him, Sri Ramakrishna exclaimed, how I suffer because no one needs my help today. It was not an unending stream of seekers that worried him. It was a diminution in their number that saddened him. Stressing the necessity of sacrifice, for any outstanding performance on the higher planes of human conduct. Swami Vivekananda says, no great thing can be done without sacrifice. The heart must be plucked out and the bleeding heart placed upon the altar. Then great things are done. When there is total sacrifice and dedication, self-realization is attained. And Sri Ramakrishna is the example. Total sacrifice. Total dedication. So, let us prepare our life that way. Then we will see how we can really attain self-realization in this very life. So self-realization through self-sacrifice, that's the topic. Page 767, Sri Ramakrishna was talking. What a state of mind I passed through. My mind would lose itself in the indivisible absolute. How many days I spent that way? I renounced bhakti and bhakta, devotion and devotee. I became inert. I could not feel the form of my own head. I was about to die. I thought of keeping Ramlal's aunt near me, referring to Sri Sharada Devi. I ordered the removal of all pictures and portraits from my room. When I regained outer consciousness, when the mind climbed down to the ordinary level, I felt as if I were being suffocated like a drowning person. At last I said to myself, if I can't bear people, then how shall I live? Then my mind was again directed to bhakti and bhakta. What has happened to me? I kept asking people. Bholanath said to me, a clerk of the Dakshineshwar temple garden, he said, this state of mind has been described in the Mahabharata. How can a man live on coming down from the plane of samadhi? Surely he requires devotion to God and the company of devotees. Otherwise, how will he keep his mind occupied? Mahimacharya said to the master, Sir, can a man return from the plane of samadhi to the plane of the ordinary world? Master said in a low voice, he said to Mahima, I should tell you privately. You are the only one fit to hear it. Kaur Singh also asked me that question. You see, there is a vast difference between the Jiva and Ishvara. Through worship and austerity, a Jiva can at the most attain samadhi, but he can't come down from that state. He cannot. On the other hand, an incarnation of God can come down from samadhi. A Jiva is like an officer of the king. He can go as far as the outer court of the 7-story palace, but the king's son has access to all the 7 floors. He can also go outside. Everybody says that no one can return from the plane of samadhi. In that case, how do you account for sages like Shankara and Ramanuja? They retained the ego of knowledge. Mahima said, that's true indeed. Otherwise, how could they write books? Master said, again, there are the instances of sages like Prahlada, Narada and Hanuman. They too retained bhakti after attaining samadhi. Mahima said, that's true, sir. Master, some people indulge in philosophical speculation and think much of themselves. Perhaps they have studied a little Vedanta, but a man cannot be egoistic if he has true knowledge. In other words, in samadhi, man becomes one with God and gets rid of his egotism. True knowledge is impossible without samadhi. In samadhi, man becomes one with God. Then he can have no egotism. Do you know what it is like? Just at noon, the sun is directly overhead. If you look around then, you don't see your shadow. Likewise, you will not find the shadow of ego after attaining knowledge, samadhi. But if you see in anyone a trace of I consciousness, after the attainment of true knowledge, then know that it is either the ego of knowledge or the ego of devotion or the servant ego. It is not the ego of ignorance. We shall stop here. So be ready to sacrifice. Then only you will be able to see God in this very life. Any question? 3 questions you can ask. If God? See, sacrifice means the sacrificing nature of the mind. That means how the mother sacrifices everything for the sake of the child. Because he loves the child, mother loves the child, and she undergoes any suffering so that the child is growing properly, and she wants the child to be happy. And so sacrificing here means that the mind is directed in one way, getting attached to so many things, and in order to have control over the mind, you must be able to sacrifice the desires. You should not hanker after name and fame, power, position. All these things should not bother you, or you should not be bothered by them. So that means you must discard them. That's called sacrifice. Tyaga. You must give up. Sacrifice, that the English term is not correct translation. Actually, the word is tyaga. Tyaga means give up. Don't own anything. The moment you own, you are in trouble. Give up everything. Give up even your body. Give up everything for God, for the sake of God. So giving up, that's called tyaga. So the tyaga, the more and more you develop that the habit of tyaga, you become more and more peaceful and blissful. You enjoy in giving charity. You part with money. You love money so much. But if you give, you feel joy. Oh, I'm parting with my money. So like that, giving up what you think your own, not possessing. So that quality of tyaga, that's important. So that is prescribed as one of the spiritual practices. So renunciation means tyaga. That means you have to give up all your worldly entanglements and worldly ways of thinking and acting and behaving. You have to give them up if you want to really enjoy the peace of mind. Because the mind is running after those things, you are not able to get real peace. Even though you want to come to ashrama, you can't come because of the so many things. So that's the point. I asked one devotee, why did you not come for the function? And the devotee said, oh, I had to take up my daughter to some event, so I had to go. So how that came in her way to come to spiritual program. But that took the priority. I'm not saying you should neglect that, but the point is how it drags you like that. It won't allow you to engage your mind in spiritual ways. Some reasons will come, some excuse will come. You won't come. One person was there. I asked him, see, Sri Ramakrishna birthday, such a most important event in the life, and you are initiated disciple. Should you not come for Sri Ramakrishna birthday? Being in Chicago? Oh, I had to go for tax returns, etc. That's the reason. No, for working, what reason? See, you can have really good reasons, but reasons are reasons only. Sri Ramakrishna's birthday again will not come. Again, it will come only next year only. But that day you missed. So even the important days, you are not able to meet, you are not able to come, let alone coming daily. So, tyaga, that is the correct word. Tyaga is the Sanskrit word. Sacrifice, is not a healthy translation of the word tyaga. न कर्मणा न प्रजया धनेन त्यागेन ऐके अमृतत्वमानशुः. I just now told. Neglected. So suffering is there. All we shall stop. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that bought for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord. In each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or revenue. The playthings of lust are the toys of fame. As many times as I am reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as just beneath thy feet. How I long for the day when an instant's separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt. For thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy. May all be free from disease. May all realize what is good. May none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous. May the virtuous attain tranquility. May the tranquil be free from bonds. May the freed make others free. May good betide all people. May the sovereign righteously rule the earth. May all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time. May the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.